Well, how in the world are you? Pastor Ed here. It's a nice sunny day outside. Hope you all enjoyed a good Easter season. Today we're going to talk a little bit about leadership and what's important and how we follow through with Jesus. Common phrase, I think we've all heard it one time or another. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And you typically hear that when being reminded of how ruthless and competitive the corporate world can really be. As a graduate and a retiree of competition in business, I will concur that it can be fierce and relentless, and it's not always a game for the faint at heart, but it too has its rewards. Achievement typically always does. But at the end of the day, our age, and technology, the forward march of technology, always reset the playing field, and reason then, as we get older, argues that, well, there may be something more important out there. And so one of the lessons learned there is the next buck is not the most important thing that we have to worry about. If you're a Christian, you understand the bottom line, Jesus and the cross and his message of repentance and baptism. Satan, of course, uses not Jesus' bottom line, but everyone else's bottom line to oppose Jesus. But St. Paul, he says, have the mind of Christ, who though he was in the form of God, didn't account equality with God a thing to be grasped, and he took the form of a servant. And so in a church we speak of servant leadership and caring for the needs of others. And the mind there is always the mind of Christ, which is humility, as St. Paul just wrote. God-ordained leadership never works out of self-interest or selfish ambition. God-ordained leadership in humble fashion, and we saw that Palm Sunday on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey, where he came conquering sin by his sacrifice for others, especially you and for me. And leadership with Jesus doesn't ever commit treason against conscience just to make a mark in the world. Tyranny and oppression will never lead you to personal honor or prestige. Jesus is the way and the truth. He is the better way. And his example, he humbles himself, obedient even to the point of death in the most horrible fashion on a cross. Take a minute and think about your favorite leaders. I suspect, I'll even bet, that they're people of great influence and ability who took some personal time to help you. I'll bet they took an interest in you. I bet they took time to talk and listen to you, and somehow they made you feel important. And that's leading with humility. And Jesus is our consummate leader of humility and compassion. He connects with sinners, with the downtrodden. He loves them and he gives them an identity of dignity. He respects them. He eats with them. He lifts them up. He dies for them, and he makes them his own. Jesus gives us all a new identity, and that's how we become a child of God. So the question we all have to ask if we're thinking we're going to be servant leaders is, how do our leadership traits match up with this construct of Jesus? And yes, sin is in the world, and yes, people are arrogant and ruthless and cause great harm with sometimes a lot of violence. But their power and influence, which they think is leadership, are always temporary and limited. But we, as servant leaders, 1 Peter 2:9, are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people who belong to God. No ruthless leader, no unjust manager, no vengeful neighbor, no power-tripping CEO need to apply to be a servant leader for Jesus. We live for promises and rewards beyond an earthly balance sheet. If you lead, that means you follow Jesus and you're a servant of others. If you lead, you follow Jesus, who laid down his life for others. And if you lead, you listen and you act with compassion in the interest of others. And Jesus again would say, especially the marginalized and those who are struggling in any possible way. If you lead, graciously and humbly share the love of Jesus, for God has highly exalted him and bestowed in him the name above every name. Be a servant leader. Pray for one another. Until we meet again, Pastor Ed, God bless you.